something is about to end. Not the season, something bigger. A voice, a person, maybe an entire way of life inside Silo 18 is about to disappear forever, and the show is telling us this before it even happens. The episode is called Farewell, and once you understand who says goodbye and why, you will not look at the last 2 episodes of Silo the same way again. There is a name buried in that word, a hidden signal the writers dropped on purpose, and almost nobody is talking about it. Before the finale drops, you need to understand exactly what this title is warning us about, because it changes everything we thought we knew about how this season ends. Silo has never been a show that rushes. Every season builds slowly, deliberately, like pressure building behind a locked door, and by the time that door finally opens, everything on the other side hits twice as hard. That is exactly where we are standing right now, on the edge of episode 9, staring at a season that has spent 8 full hours tightening the screws on Silo 18 until the entire structure feels like it could collapse in on itself at any moment. Episode 8, Grey Goo, was not a quiet episode. It was a warning shot. Juliet's war against the safeguard system stopped being a rebellion whispered about in shadows and became something the entire silo could feel happening around them. In the walls, in the air, in the growing unease of people who have spent their whole lives being told that questions are dangerous and silence is safety. Think about what that means for the people living inside Silo 18 right now. For generations, an entire population has been raised inside a controlled narrative, taught what to believe, taught what not to ask, taught that curiosity about the world above is not just discouraged, but punished. That is the world Juliet has been quietly tearing apart, piece by piece, ever since she started asking the one question everyone else was too afraid to say out loud: what if everything we have been told is a lie? By the time episode 8 ends, that question is no longer hypothetical. The mysterious radio signal that has haunted this season is not background noise anymore. It is a thread pulling Juliet and everyone connected to her towards something the safeguard clearly does not want found. The rebellion, once scattered and disorganized, has started to take real shape. And Bernard, the man who has spent years controlling Silo 18 through fear, misinformation, and quiet cruelty, is watching his grip slip for the first time in the entire series. That is the emotional temperature episode 9 walks into. This is not a fresh start. This is a silo already standing on a cracked foundation, and episode 9, reportedly titled Farewell, arrives as the penultimate chapter of the season, which in Silo's storytelling pattern has always meant one very specific thing. This is where the truth starts leaking out faster than anyone can contain it. Penultimate episodes in this show are never filler. They are detonation points. They are where the writers stop teasing mysteries and start collapsing them because they know the finale needs somewhere higher to climb from. According to early details circulating about the episode, Camille is set to make an announcement that reportedly shakes the entire silo. If you have been paying attention to Camille's arc, this is not a small detail. It is a potential turning point for the entire season. Camille sits in a uniquely dangerous position. She has access to information tied to the algorithm, the very system quietly shaping who lives, who dies, and who gets chosen for what role inside Silo 18. At the same time, her relationship with Juliet's growing movement has never been simple. She is not fully aligned with the rebellion, and she is not fully loyal to the system either. She exists in the space between both worlds, which makes whatever she is about to say dangerous in a way that neither side can fully predict. An announcement from someone standing in that position does not just add information, it destabilizes trust on both sides at once. If Camille speaks and the silo believes her, the balance of power inside Silo 18 could shift in a single scene. If she speaks and the silo does not believe her, it could ignite the very chaos Bernard has spent the entire season trying to suppress. Layered on top of this is the Before Times storyline, which has quietly become one of the most important threads of the entire season. This is not simply flashback material meant to fill time between the main plot beats. This is the origin story of the entire silo system, the slow, chilling reveal of how humanity ended up living underground in the first place, and who decided that was the only option left. Episode 9 is reportedly set to feature Helen and Daniel attending a significant event tied to this timeline, and if the show follows its usual pattern, This is not just a character moment, it is a puzzle piece. Every time Silo pulls back the curtain on the before times, it is not simply showing us the past for atmosphere, it is quietly explaining the present. Every choice made decades ago in that timeline is a domino that eventually falls into the world Juliet is fighting to survive in today. Put all of that together, and you start to see why this episode carries so much weight. Juliet has spent almost this entire season in pure survival mode, reacting to threats, dodging traps, staying one step ahead of a system built specifically to destroy people like her. But with only 2 episodes left in the season, the story cannot stay in survival mode forever. Something has to shift. And everything about episode 9's setup, Camille's destabilizing announcement, the before times event, the tightening noose around Bernard's control, suggests that this is the episode where Juliet finally stops running from the truth and starts running toward it. That shift, from survival to discovery, is not a small narrative beat. It is the moment a character stops asking, "How do I stay alive?" and starts asking, "What is actually happening here? And who has been lying to me?" Once that switch flips, there is no going back to the world before it. And that is exactly the kind of irreversible moment Silo has been building toward since the very first episode of this season. Here is the detail almost everyone is going to miss. And once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it. The episode is not called something vague or poetic in the usual Silo tradition. It is called farewell. That word on its own is doing a tremendous amount of quiet work, and the show clearly chose it on purpose. A farewell is not a death. A farewell is not a plot twist. A farewell is an ending that is known, anticipated, and often chosen, which makes it one of the most emotionally loaded words the writers could have possibly picked for this specific point in the season. Think about what a farewell actually implies inside the world of Silo. This is a story built entirely around information control, secrecy, and characters who rarely get the luxury of a clean goodbye. People disappear. People are silenced. People vanish into cleaning duty and are erased from memory within days. A farewell, by contrast, suggests something different, something almost gentler, and therefore far more devastating in context. It suggests a moment where someone is fully aware that this is the end, and so is everyone around them. That is a rare and heavy narrative device, and Silo does not use rare devices lightly. There are 3 directions this title could realistically point, and each one carries a completely different emotional weight for the story. The first possibility is a literal farewell tied to death or sacrifice. A major character choosing to give up their life, or being forced into a position where survival is no longer an option in service of the larger fight against the safeguard. Given how intensely this season has built up the stakes of Juliet's rebellion, a sacrifice of this magnitude would not just be emotional, it would be a structural turning point that reshapes the final episode entirely. The second possibility is a separation rather than a death. A farewell between 2 characters whose paths are forced to diverge, whether through circumstance, betrayal, or an impossible choice neither of them wanted to make. Silo has spent this entire season building relationships under pressure, alliances tested by fear and misinformation, and a separation of this kind could hit just as hard emotionally as a literal death, while leaving the door open for future consequences neither character can control. The third possibility, and arguably the most narratively elegant, is that farewell refers not to a person at all, but to an era. This would tie directly back to the before times storyline. If Helen and Daniel are approaching the very event that eventually dooms the old world, then farewell could be the show's way of marking the final goodbye to life as it existed before the silos. The last calm moment before everything humanity once knew is lost forever. In that reading, the title is not about one character's ending, it is about the ending of an entire civilization's innocence, captured through the eyes of 2 people who have no idea what is about to happen to their world. Why does this matter so much? Because Silo has consistently used its before-time sequences to foreshadow present-day consequences. If Helen and Daniel's storyline is genuinely reaching its farewell point, that suggests the before-times timeline is about to catch up with or directly explain something happening in Juliet's present. 2 timelines converging around the same emotional concept, an ending, a goodbye, a point of no return, is almost never a coincidence in this kind of tightly plotted mystery drama. It suggests the writers are deliberately mirroring the past and the present so that when the finale arrives, both timelines can collide into a single, unified revelation. This is the kind of detail that rewards viewers who are paying close attention. A casual viewer sees an episode title, a careful viewer sees a promise and possibly a warning about exactly what kind of ending this season is building toward. Based on everything building across this season, there are a few strong theories worth considering here, and all of them remain unconfirmed possibilities rather than guaranteed outcomes. It is possible that Camille's announcement is designed specifically to fracture the fragile unity forming around Juliet's movement, rather than strengthen it. Given her complicated position between the algorithm's information network and the growing rebellion, her words could be used, intentionally or not, as a tool by the people still holding power inside Silo 18. If that is the case, this could mean the rebellion does not simply face outside threats from Bernard's control, but internal division caused by uncertainty over who can actually be trusted. It's also possible that the title Farewell is intentionally ambiguous because it applies to more than one character at once. Silo has shown a pattern of layering meaning, and it would fit the show's style if this episode delivers not one goodbye, but two, one in the present timeline and one in the before time storyline, mirroring each other so precisely that their emotional impact lands as a single gut punch by the time the credits roll. Another theory worth considering is that the Before Times event featuring Helen and Daniel could reveal, directly or indirectly, the true origin of the safeguard system itself. If the show is using the penultimate episode to finally connect the founding of the silos with the very mechanism currently oppressing Juliet, that would elevate Farewell from an emotional character episode into a structural revelation episode, one that explains not just who built this world, but why it was built to control people so completely. Finally, there is a theory that Juliet's long-awaited shift from survival mode into discovery mode is not a slow transition, but a sudden, forced one, triggered specifically by whatever Camille reveals. It's possible that this announcement removes any remaining ambiguity about what Juliet is fighting, stripping away the last illusions and forcing her, and the audience, to finally see the full shape of the conspiracy she has only been circling until now. None of these theories are confirmed. They are simply the most logical paths the story appears to be laying down, based on the patterns this season has consistently followed. With only 2 episodes remaining in the season, Episode 9 is expected to deliver major answers about the safeguard system, the true purpose behind the silos, and the reality hiding beneath the controlled narrative that has shaped life in Silo 18 for generations. Expect new information about the founders and the original conspiracy, an escalation in the conflict between Juliet and the forces controlling the silo, and hints pointing toward a much larger network of silos beyond the one we have followed all season. If the Before Time storyline reaches its farewell point here, the finale may open with the full picture of how this world came to exist, setting up a final confrontation with far higher stakes than anything Juliet has faced so far. One thing seems certain, whatever happens in this episode is designed to make the finale feel less like an ending and more like a reckoning. Every piece of this season has been leading somewhere, and Farewell feels like the moment Silo finally stops circling its biggest secrets and starts confronting them head-on. Whether it's a person, a relationship, or an entire era of the Before Times coming to an end, this episode is shaping up to be one of the most emotionally loaded hours of the series so far. So here's the real question heading into the finale. Who or what do you think this season is actually saying goodbye to? Drop your theory in the comments, and let's break down the finale together the moment it drops.